Hi guys, welcome to my review of Pretty Little Liars episode 720, aka the series / show finale, Till Death Do Us Part. I can't believe I'm actually sitting down to film my review of the last ever episode of Pretty Little Liars. It feels really surreal to be saying that, but I'm really excited to film this video. So, I was right! I say I was right. I did not come up with the theory, but the theory that I had decided was going to be the right one was the right one, and so I'm really pleased about that because that is the first time in PLL that I think that has actually happened. Now I do just want to say a quick disclaimer here, just in case for any reason you haven't realised this is going to be a spoiler filled review. It's going to be a discussion of the whole episode, so if you haven't watched the Pretty Little Liars finale, please click away from this video now. So first off, I just want to say that I did not hate this finale. I know that there were a lot of people who were super disappointed in it. I was not one of them. Was this episode perfect? Absolutely not. Were there some pretty major plot holes? Of course there were. Has it reached a point in Pretty Little Liars where we have kind of just come to accept these things? I think so. So the Spencer twin theory is something that as of maybe about 4 or 5 episodes ago I had got pretty comfortable with the idea that that is how this was all going to pan out. So I wonder if on some level that is why I enjoyed it in a way that some other people didn't, because I think when you've kind of come to a decision of being like, yeah, this is how it's going to pan out, and then it does pan out that way, it isn't like a disappointing shock like the way that it was when I found out that first time around was Cece. I was kind of disappointed in that because I hadn't figured it out, I hadn't already worked out who it was, and it wasn't really any of the people that I wanted it to be, and so I felt let down. Whereas in this situation, I'd come to accept that it was going to be a Spencer twin, which was funny because when that theory first started floating around a little while ago, I was not on board with it at all. I love Spencer, she's my favourite character, so at the first kind of hint of it being something that was going to be even more traumatic for her, I was like, nope. Not accepting this, do not do anything more traumatic to Spencer than you already have. But as time went on and we started to get those little hints that were dropped in and those little moments with Spencer interacting with the others at points where you could be like, well, that doesn't really sound like her and she's not really behaving the way that she usually would, you know, like with the rain scene in the airport and all that, I started to get more on board with it. And so in actual fact, I think, yeah, if it had been someone, I know that loads of people were angry because they were like, oh, this is just someone that they've thrown in at the last minute, it's someone that we didn't even know existed until this episode, so I'm really let down that it wasn't someone we've known since day one. I do get that and I do understand why that was kind of disappointing, but to be perfectly honest, I think that it could have been a lot worse. I think that disappointments in the past, like the fact that, it's the one I'll never stop going on about, but Sarah Harvey being Redcoat and the Black Widow, to me was a huge disappointment because she was a character that we knew virtually nothing about and she wasn't really connected to the girls in any way. So although Alex is a character who, and by the way I just want to say I'll talk more about this later, but I think Troyan did an absolutely stellar job in those scenes where it was Alex pretending to be Spencer. I think she did a stellar job all round. The accent, questionable, of course it was. I did watch an interview or read an interview with Troyan actually talking about that though, and she said, because Emma and I were talking about it and we were like, why did they not just have her do like a softer English accent? You know, she could have just mimicked the way that Ren speaks, because Julian Morris is obviously, he's naturally an English actor, he's got that accent. And that apparently had been what Troyan had planned to do. She'd planned to kind of just imitate that sort of accent, and it was Marlene who was like, no, we need to make a huge distinction between Alex and Ren. I don't want there to be similarities. I want it to be that Alex had a really like rough upbringing and a rough childhood, and you know she's you know from a very different background to him, and so I want her accent to reflect that, and which meant that Troyan ended up having to basically, I think her reference point from what I've read was The Only Way is Essex, so you know trying to have that less refined sort of English accent, which I think was a bit of a problem. And of course there were then moments where it was really dramatic where the accent was slightly distracting. That put aside, I think if you just eliminate the accent point of it, I think Troy did a brilliant job. I think she's a very talented actress and I have a lot of admiration for her as a person, and so I think that she did very well with something that was a very unexpected storyline that, yeah, I think had been in the works behind the scenes for like a little while, but in terms of putting that all on screen, she had one episode to do it. So yeah, I think she did very well. But yeah, I get that it was a bit of a disappointment in that this torment was done by someone that we didn't know until this episode. But as I say, I think in comparison to disappointments that I've felt in the past, like the Sarah Harvey reveal, I think that it could have been a lot worse. So yeah, other things about this episode, I guess I'll just sort of like pick little bits and pieces to talk about. The Arya and Ezra storyline, I was really sad about the Arya not being able to have kids storyline. I thought that was a shame. But I do like the fact that they were very quick to kind of just be like, well, it's not the end of the world and it's not a deal breaker, and it's, you know, we'll adopt, or we'll, you know, get a surrogate or whatever, we'll deal with this. The one question that I have, which Emma and I were talking about over lunch, was why are they all so desperate to have children in their mid-20s? Like, I know Ali and Emily have like found themselves in a situation where they have babies unexpectedly, but I don't understand why the rest of the, like, Hannah's pregnant by the end of it, Arya and Ezra are going on their honeymoon and they're going to come back, and the minute they're back their honeymoon, they're looking into adoption. Like, I don't really understand why they all need to have babies immediately. I guess that was the show's way of being like, oh, look at our little families, like our little couples have survived all this trauma, and like Spencer and Toby will be getting back together. You might not have seen it on screen, but like we know what's going on there, and you know, Ali and Emily are engaged and they're settled, and look at them all having babies and stuff. Like, I don't know, I just felt like that was all a bit rushed and that wasn't really necessary, but who am I to judge? If that's what they all wanted to do as characters, go for it. But I did like that we got to see Arya and Ezra married. I feel like of all the couples, they are the one who had the kind of biggest potential for it to probably go disastrously wrong, just because of how they started out and how they got together and everything they went through when we found out he'd been writing the book and everything. So I think the fact that they managed to work through all of that and then have an end story where they were ending up together forever was quite cute. And I think that the wedding scene, like the actual proper final wedding scene, was lovely. I much preferred that dress for Arya to be getting married in than the first dress. That's just my own personal taste, but I thought they both looked very lovely. Caleb was annoying me so much in this episode. I don't know if it's just because I've been put off Caleb like from 6B. I've never really got back fully on board with him as a character, but he was kind of bugging me in this episode. I know that Mona has done a lot of really bad things, and I know that as you know, as a husband, you would be looking at your wife and thinking, I really don't want this person living with us in case she hurts you again. But Hannah was choosing to put her faith in Mona and be there for her and support her, and I felt like Caleb was being like really unsupportive about that and basically saying, you're not consulting me on these big life decisions, so how, you know, are we supposed to move forward with this? And then like 2 minutes later they're pregnant. Like, I don't know, I don't know how I felt about that necessarily. The Mona storyline sort of upset me. I'm very glad that our Queen Mona by the end was like back in charge, with that like hilarious scene that was like tagged on at the end where you found out that she had actually faked phoning the police, so the police hadn't actually ever turned up. It was just her French boyfriend, because of course Mona has a French boyfriend, turning up in a police uniform to take Mary and Alex away, and then she's got them like locked in her very own dollhouse for the rest of time, which I thought was quite entertaining. And I'm glad that she kind of came out on top again in that situation, because I was kind of really, I didn't actually review the previous 2 episodes. I should have, I always meant to and I never got around to it, but I was kind of gutted with the way that all panned out, with her having killed Charlotte and then like regressing into this like mentally fragile state. I didn't really like that they took it in that direction for Mona, because she is such a kick-ass character, and I just felt like they played a little bit too much on that like mentally ill card, which I don't like when they do. There were issues with that for me with the whole kind of Charlotte storyline, in terms of the kind of trans issues and mental health issues and stuff, that I wasn't 100% on board with. But I didn't really like that they did that with Mona in the previous episode, and so I was glad that by the end of it she came out, you know, fierce and on top, as she always does. I loved that we got a couple of scenes with the mums, and there were a couple of lines in this episode that was like, do you know what, guys? I've got a lot of respect for the fact that you've thrown that in there, because they poked a little bit of fun at themselves a couple of times, which I've not really seen Pretty Little Liars do. Like, although it's sort of gone ever so slightly off the rails the past couple of seasons, in the earlier stages it was creepy and it owned that and it was really good at it. Whereas in the past couple of seasons I feel like it could have afforded probably to like make a little bit more fun of itself, and they did that in this episode. There was the line where Veronica and Ashley and Ella were standing at the rehearsal dinner, and there was a sort of throwaway line of like, oh, do you remember when we were stuck in the basement, like, do you remember how we got out of there? And then it just never got answered, and I thought that was brilliant, because it was then basically being like guys, we know like that was like a big scene and then we never ever addressed it ever again, and you guys picked up on that and you talked about it on social media, so here, like, let's have a bit of a laugh at it. So I thought that was really good. And the other line that I really liked was when Toby had turned up at the house to say to them all, like, I don't think Spencer's Spencer, I think that she's got an evil twin. And Emily was like, of all the ridiculous theories, or of all the over-the-top theories, or of all the crazy theories, something like that, that we've had, like, you can't expect us to, like, go with this one. And again, I was like, nicely done, nicely done. A little acknowledgement there of the fact that it's just gone, like, absolutely, like, nuts over the past little while. And, you know, we've had characters drop in and out of it that have, like, caused chaos and never been referenced again and whatever. And I did just quite like the fact that they were happy to kind of go, we know this is nuts, but hey, it's Pretty Little Liars, enjoy. So, on to the kind of real stuff from this episode. As I say, I was kind of happy enough with the Alex reveal. I did think that if I was Spencer, I would probably be slightly peeved that a horse and Jenna Marshall figured out that it wasn't me before any of my pals or my ex long-term boyfriend who slept with this person twice and never twigged that it wasn't me. So yeah, I think I would have had some comments to make about that, but other than that, I kind of liked the way that the episode was handled in terms of sort of Alex taking Spencer away and having her out of the picture for the episode while she kind of took her place in a more permanent sense. I think that they did quite a nice job of having Alex have that vulnerability while she was in those scenes with the girls. I think they kind of juxtaposed that quite nicely with the scenes with her in that sort of dungeon place that she'd built with, again, sorry, just to point this out, again, is this another evil genius? Like Cece's lair in the dollhouse and all that, like absolute evil genius material. And now we've got Alex has created this place for them. Like, how do they manage to do this? They never explain that, but never mind. So it was really high energy and high drama when she was filling Spencer in her life and how she met Ren and Cece and all of that stuff and how she formed those relationships. She was very like up and very loud and very in your face. And then in the scenes where she was obviously pretending to be Spencer, it was a much more low-key performance because obviously she was trying to not arouse any suspicion. But I also felt like that showed this kind of vulnerable side where you could see how much it meant to her to have the sort of love and trust and respect of these girls and have those friendships that were really solid and really supportive, and the way that Toby felt about her, or the way that she hoped that Toby felt about her, and all of those kind of relationships that Alex hadn't had. I think that they managed in quite a short space of time to do quite a nice job of explaining why she was behaving the way that she was behaving and why she was kind of trying to take over Spencer's life. I think that they showed that vulnerable side of her quite nicely in those scenes, particularly the one at Ari's wedding. I love that Ren is the father of the babies. I love that. Like, he needed to be involved in quite a massive way, and I was waiting to see how they were going to bring him into it. I'd reached a point where I was like, I don't think he is AD. I'd always wanted him to be, but I'd reached a point where I was like, no, he's probably not, it's fine. And, you know, I'd kind of accepted that, but I knew that he was going to play a bigger part in the finale and was just really intrigued to see how he was going to fit into it. And I think that, again, they did something quite nice with the relationship that he built with Alex, because I always wondered why he and Melissa got back together, but I think he would rather have been with Spencer, and so meeting Alex and then kind of forming this bond with someone who reminded him of someone he'd loved in the past, but meeting her and like figuring her out as a different person, I think was quite nicely done. I think Julian Morris played those scenes very well. He was given quite a tough job because there were some of those like very unbelievable scenes, like the one where she asked him to shoot her, where you're just like, no one would do that. No one would agree to that. Especially when it's the fact that she's like got this huge evil plan to like ruin Spencer's life. Like, Ren was supposed to care about Spencer, and so I do feel like that scene, I was like, we could have probably done without that, but I suppose they did have to explain why she had the scar. But I guess that was supposed to highlight what like a passionate love Ren and Alex had for each other. I guess that's where they were going with that, but I do think that Julie Morris did a nice job of handling those scenes. The one thing that I have the biggest question about, and if someone can explain this to me in the comments down below, I would love you forever, because this is the thing that I can't understand. It's the timeline. The timeline is what I'm most fuzzy on and what I'm really struggling to kind of understand, because I think what they're trying to suggest is that Alex and Ren must have been together for like 6 years or something like that. Because the one thing, that's not so much of an issue. Like, if that kind of then explains why he was so willing to do anything for her. They'd been together for a long time at that point. But I remember there was, well, not I remember, I checked this. Spencer went to London in episode 521. So that was right at the end of season 5. The Dollhouse episode's 525. So she went to London in 521, at which point Rain and Melissa were supposed to still be in a relationship with each other and they were living together in London. That was outlined in that episode, that they were supposed to still be together. Charlotte got found out to be A in episode 610, so we'll say that's like 6 months later or something like that, like 6 months after the girls were in the dollhouse or whatever. So then she went away and she was like locked up for 5 years, and then like the day she was released, she died. So when did all this stuff where Alex and Rain and Charlotte and Archer, like they were all so close and they spent so much time together, and she was like, we were inseparable, we did everything together. When did that happen? Because if Rain and Melissa were still together in episode 521, and then the dollhouse thing, I thought we were supposed to assume that it was Charlotte who was in the dollhouse with them. So it was Charlotte who was there, like, you know, in those scenes where they were at the prom and all that. It was her in the hoodie that was like creeping about. I thought that we were supposed to assume that that was her. But then we had that scene with Alex saying goodbye to Charlotte, and she was like, when she went back to, you know, when she went back to continue her torment of the girls, you know, I missed her so much, and, you know, I didn't want her to leave, and I never got to see her again, and she was my sister and I loved her. And, you know, that actually was quite sad that she'd finally found. That's what I'd said I figured they were going to go for, that they had Charlotte and Alex as these kind of like kindred spirits, or not, I didn't know she was Alex at the time, but Charlotte and AD as kindred spirits who'd been through, you know, the same thing. They'd been abandoned by their mother, or they felt they'd been abandoned by her, and so there was a connection there, and that's why AD was so angry when Charlotte died, and that was what they were going for. And I thought that that was actually really nicely done, but it doesn't actually fit in the chronology of the show at any point. If we're supposed to believe that they spent all this time together, when did it happen? Because she said, oh, when I met Rain, he and Melissa were already split up, she was already out of the picture, so, you know, I think she said, oh, he was fair game. So they've broken up. So unless they'd literally broken up like a few days before and he got together with her, and then he'd obviously called Charlotte and got Charlotte to come over. So was that at the point that Charlotte got the flight and she met Archer and all that, and that's why she was going to London, was to meet up with Rain to meet Alex, and then she'd met Archer at that point, and then they all spent this time together. But there's no time for this within the timeline, like, unless it wasn't Charlotte who was actually torturing the girls in 6A, unless she had some sort of minion doing it, unless she had Sarah doing it for her and she was in London for that whole time, then there's no explanation. It's, in fact, 6A, yeah, no, 6A, Sarah was out, I guess. So maybe it was her. I just don't think there's any explanation for this in terms of the timeline. I think that that's been a plot hole that they've not ever addressed, because I think that it was kind of like wishful thinking. They were just like, this is how we imagined it all panned out, so we'll just say it did. But it doesn't fit in at any point. Rain and Melissa's flatmate. Rain and Melissa are still together, and I've just googled this to like check up on this, but Rain and Melissa were still together in episode 521, and in 525, 5 episodes later, there was no time jump at this point, was when the dollhouse stuff happened. So at that point, I am assuming that it was Charlotte who had come back to Rosewood to torment them at that point. If it wasn't, who was that? Because Sarah Harvey was meant to be, unless it was Sarah Harvey who kidnapped them. They really need to explain this better, because that is the one thing that I think that's a huge downfall, is the timeline. They've not properly fixed the timeline. But yeah, I did like that was how Rain was involved. I love that Rain was the baby daddy. Been waiting to find out who that was, and there were points where I was like, maybe the dad's Rain, and then I couldn't kind of work out how that would have happened or why. But I kind of love that that is the way they went with it. The fact that she killed him and was like, oh, casually, like, oh, here he is round my neck. You were like, I was really gutted for him at that point, because I liked Rain, and I know that that's a terrible thing to say because we suspected him for so long, but I always had a bit of a soft spot for him, probably just because I really loved Julian Morris. But I thought that the character was really interesting, and I thought that they could have gone in a lot of different directions with him, and so I'm kind of gutted that that's how he ended up, especially because I think, again, what they tried to do with that was have it that I think she wanted Rain to love her as Spencer, and he couldn't do that because he knew that she wasn't, and he had kind of loved them both separately. Whereas for Toby, if Toby never knew that she existed, she could take Spencer's place, theoretically, and have him love her the way that he loved Spencer, and that's what she wanted. She wanted that kind of like unconditional true love and true friendship from the other girls. And so from that perspective, you know, you feel quite sorry for her. But then she just went completely nuts and then tried to kill Spencer and Ezra with an axe. I'm glad Ezra's not dead. I watched a theory video that said Ezra died and it was very convincing, so I'm very pleased that he actually made it out alive. I kind of feel bad for Mary that she ended up in this dollhouse of Mona's with Alex. Although again, this was something that Emma and I were talking about in terms of Mary, is that they did a really nice thing at the end of the last episode where they had her like take the girl's place, so basically go to jail for them. I thought that was really nice, and it was like a sort of selfless act to help her daughter and her friends, and you know, she was going to probably go to jail for killing Jessica anyway, so you know, having that moment where she decided to just take the blame for them, I thought was really nice, and it was a nice sort of maternal moment for her and Spencer. And so to then have her like broken out by Alex and then have that moment where she opened the door and went in and gave Spencer a hug when she was crying and then was like, oh, but she'll be mad at me, and then went back out and locked the door, you're just like, if you really cared about Spencer, you would not let this happen to her. You wouldn't let yourself be like bullied by your child who, you know, yeah, okay, fair enough, she didn't check up on her after she went to England, she just assumed she'd, you know, be okay and whatever, but seriously, like, to allow her to treat Spencer and her friends the way that she's treated her and then be accepting of the fact that, oh well, we'll just be in here forever, like, that kind of annoyed me. But I did feel like they kind of didn't quite decide how they wanted us to feel about Mary by the end. Did they want us to be frightened of her and uncomfortable by her, or did they want us to feel sorry for her and like her? I feel like they weren't 100% sure themselves, but I do think that Andrea did a really good job of playing that character towards the end, and those scenes between her and Spencer I thought were really nice, and so yeah, I would say big thumbs up for her performance because it was very good. And generally I am kind of just, maybe I'm in the minority here, I don't know, but I'm kind of okay with it being a twin reveal at the end. The show has always been obsessed with twins. It's had, you know, that notion of like twins and doppelgangers and stuff throughout it from the very beginning, from the kind of Halloween episodes and these stories about twins from early on, where you always thought that Allie was going to turn out to have a twin, and then thinking that the A was going to be a twin of someone's and it wasn't, and then obviously Jessica and Mary turning out to be twins and following that on into the ending with Spencer. I'm okay with that. So that's it. I can't believe that the show is over. Let me know in the comments down below how you felt about it. If you understand the timeline, please explain it to me because I cannot get my head around it. And let me know what you thought of, you know, the performances and the script and everything for that finale episode. I thought Troy was brilliant. But then I'm probably biased because I just love her as an actress and Spencer's my favourite, so I think she did a really good job, accent aside, and I think that maybe wasn't necessarily her choice of accent that she would have gone with, but hey ho, when you're being directed by other people you've got to just go with what they think works for the story, I guess. So I think she did brilliantly. I'm really pleased that Spencer and Toby are going to be together in the future. I have like very happy like shipper vibes for those two because they're so cute together. I love that they got to play Scrabble again and stuff in that episode. I thought that was a very nice little touch. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below how you felt about this, and thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Thumbs up for the very end of a very, very long ongoing show that we've invested a lot of time in, which is kind of sad, but yeah, thumbs up for that. And if you haven't already hit subscribe, you can subscribe down below to keep up to date with all my videos. Thanks so much again guys, and I hope you're having a great day. Bye!